it's the first time I've been BYD as well, so I'm quite keen to see how what the car's like, particularly about whether there's a battery in there that we can borrow a kettle and have coffees. So we brought coffee with it, we could try it out, and also biscuits, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
What has surprised you about EV performance during this tour?
Performance, so I've just spoken about like the power you've got in there, but also like I think it changes the way, if you're not on the track, about how you drive. So you're thinking about not just about when you're on an ICE vehicle about going as fast as possible. You're thinking about, okay, how can I make sure I've got my range? I can still get where I want to go to. When I'm gonna, how I'm gonna drive the most efficiently. That was why I think a bit more about that. And the other things, if you're going downhill, you're charging your car. You don't get there when you're like a petrol car. So even whether you're driving and how you do it and your technique, you'll just save power and also kind of extend your range. You never get more petrol if you're going downhill. For an EV, you get more power. If you go downhill, you get more on your battery.
What have been your biggest learnings and surprises when it comes to EV charging along the route?
So I like about it, slight caveat because I had an EV in the UK, so I charge it at home. I think the only difference is because when I had it in the UK, we didn't have the really rapid charge points. So I think in UK I used the first one at 50 kilowatt. But here, if you go like over 100 kilowatt, I mean how quick it is. So I think that one of our cars today was charging in a charge point of 150 kilowatt, and it went from almost like 0 to 100% in about 70, 90 minutes. I mean, that is pretty incredible. So when people talk about it take you a long time, an hour to charge, when you're talking about something like 17 minutes to go full up, that's something else. Have a different conversation then, rather than people's reference about hours. So that was quite surprised about. That has really changed for the last 5 years since I first started driving an EV.
Tell us about compatibility issues between different EVs, brands and charging stations.
Yeah, I think that's what I think. Everyone's talking about range anxiety. I think actually SA has charge points when you need them, right? I've never had range anxiety here because we always knew we could find a charge point. There was never a problem. It's about charge point anxiety. That's what I found here. Because unfortunately, when you rock up a charge point here, you do have some concern, worry that are you going to be able to charge from the charge point? So is it going to be the maintenance? Is it going to be you? Is your car going to be able to get a charge from the charge point? That is kind of the next problem I think here. Not about enough charge points, although there's never enough. It's about how getting the reliability of the system. That's a frustrating thing. So to be fair, a lot of these cars have been able to charge the charge points we've gone to, but a couple of them, like the BYD, really struggles, and how the new cars come on. You're going to have to make sure that we're ready for an innovation, how the technology really changes.
How does the driving comfort of an EV compare to traditional vehicles?
So I think they're generally smoother, and I think because you don't have to think about gears and when you're going to change gear, it's more kind of smooth. So that's what I found. It's also, I think probably if you think about when you overtake someone, so I've got, my car is a diesel, JLR diesel. I like the car, but when you overtake someone, I think, right, about a second or 2 seconds, I'm going to overtake them, so I put my foot down. In about 2 seconds, then you get the power. You don't get that with EV. If I'm going to overtake a car, I think, right, put your foot down, and you got the power. That is very different, and I think that's why that I really prefer an EV.
What are your top 3 tips for someone considering buying an EV in South Africa?
First one, I think if you're going to get a second-hand EV, I'd not when the EV was manufactured, but do some research about this and the standard of capacity of the battery. So how's the healthiness of the battery? I mean, it's the same as your phone, right? If you get a second-hand iPhone or another phone, you always think like, okay, how good is this battery in the phone I'm buying? So make sure the battery, if you get second-hand EV, is still good. I think the other one, I think it's it's a change, right? So I'm not going to say that it's just you can go from a petrol diesel car to an EV. It's a change in behaviour. So when you're thinking a petrol diesel car, you're thinking of your next petrol station. But actually, the way you drive an EV, you're thinking about where you're going to charge next. So where it's more about when you're going to park your car next. Are you going to be work? Can you charge at work? At home, you're going to charge it at home. Are you going to go charge at the supermarket? It's a different way of thinking. So a car spends about 95% of its lifetime just parked. So just use that time more efficiently. Just charge it up. So you don't have to do these diversions to go to a petrol station. You just make it work with your life. So when you park somewhere, is there a charge point? Get it charged. That's the difference.
What improvements are needed in South Africa for better EV adoption?
So I think the first one is an obvious one because it's the same in pretty much every country in the world. More charge points. You always need more charge points at the moment. I think some of it is about regulation. I think some of the things I mentioned is standards about the comms between an EV and a charge point. So it has to make sure that the comms between them, that they can communicate with each other. The problems we've had on this trip is you plug in the EV, it sort of makes a handshake. So the EV says I want charge on it says I can charge you, and then it breaks down, and that's the problem. And that's why we've had real problems. So I think regulations about making sure EVs or sales in South Africa are going to be able to charge from charge points in the country, and that's probably the main one. I think actually a lot of people detest about how expensive EVs are. So to produce them when they roll off the manufacturing and a plant, for petrol and EV cars, they're actually pretty much the same price once they're manufactured. It's other taxes afterwards. So it's the import or export duties, it's then additional taxes as well, and then it's VAT, and that stacks up that makes EVs more expensive in South Africa. So I kind of want to get it to a price that more South Africans can think, right, I can afford it, I'm thinking about getting there. I think that's the problem South Africa has at the moment, is about people thinking an EV is affordability. So that's kind of the next thing I think probably needs to be thought about.